Want to welcome you wrestling fans to the Big Schmaz of Scotty Bender alongside, well, not really alongside, but virtual with Superstar Rob Schulz and the big guy. Welcome this week. Hello. Yeah, what a week it's been, huh? The weather's been gorgeous. I just want to make a quick comment on that. The weather has been fantastic here.
I'm glad you brought that up. Heel turns. What in the world? Can you believe it?
Yeah. I did a heel turn on Major League Baseball. I'm a heel.
Yeah.
I heel turned on him. I was the biggest fan of baseball. I'm a heel turn, but we'll get into that later. But yeah.
Didn't they heel turn on you?
No, I turned on them.
Oh, okay.
I still cheered them.
Yeah.
I concertoed them, buddy.
Huh. Okay.
I gave them a crimson mass. I busted them open hard way.
But they Pearl Harbored you with this 60-game season.
Right. Well, it would be more not a Pearl Harbor. It was more that it's one of those things where you have a partner that's not giving you the right information. They're misleading you. And they're trying to do stuff that you don't agree with. They have a strategy. They're trying to do move sets, or they're trying to do a tag team strategy that I don't agree with. And they just keep pushing it down my throat. So one day I just got to turn around and I got to potato them.
There you go.
I did. Yeah.
Okay.
That was a heel turn. That was my heel turn.
Gotcha.
On Major League Baseball.
I'm with you.
So, yeah, heel turns. There's been some great ones. I mean, heel turns make the world go round in wrestling, as a face turn does. But I think a really good heel turn outweighs a really good face turn. But you got to do the heel turn right, because I've always felt any sort of heel turn has to strike the fan in the heart. You have to feel it emotionally. I've talked about wrestling as being emotional. That's how, I grew up. I grew up watching wrestling. It was very emotional for me. I was vested, and I believed it. There's no dirt sheets. But when someone turned back, when I was watching wrestling back in the day, man, that was a huge deal.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, I recall probably the first big heel turn that affected me when thinking back was old WWF out of Allentown. It was the Larry Zybisko heel turn on his mentor, the living legend, Bruno Sammartino. That was probably one of my first real experiences with a heel turn where I couldn't believe it. I was a young kid, but I was flabbergasted. I could not believe that Zybisko turned. He was in an ingrate to his great mentor, the living legend, Bruno Sammartino. I mean, hit him with a chair, busted him open right there in Allentown. It was an exhibition match. Just wanted to get out from under the shadow of Bruno Sammartino.
And that was a turn that Zybisko's entire career after that was built on.
Correct.
He was always the living legend, which was sarcastic.
Yep.
And a heel move to use that term until finally people started calling him that.
Yeah. But that was a very significant. Like I said, we talk about heel. I always just remember that. I wanted Channel 9 TV from Allentown. Again, it was supposed to be an exhibition match. He lured him into a false sense of security. Bruno kind of frustrated him early on with some moves, being respectful, but he wasn't having any of that. And he hit him with the chair, and that led to the big cage match in Shea Stadium, which Bruno won. And then Zybisko moved on from WWF and sealed his career as a heel throughout all of his career.
So what made that such a good heel turn? Like, what was the setup? What made you believe?
Because they always say the best, friends make the worst enemies. And I think that's really what it boiled down to. You had Bruno, who, back when this happened in the 70s there, he was, he was probably one of the greatest WWE wrestlers, back in the day, wrestlers in the world. He took this young guy under his wing, former wrestler, amateur wrestler at Penn State. And he took him under his wing and tried to mold him in, give him the values, and took him in as a son. And Zybisko, just again was sick and tired of being, you're under Bruno's wing, and you're his pupil, and he had enough, and he wanted to make a name for himself. So I think that's what it was. It was the emotion of a son turning on their father in a hypothetical way, for me at least.
And it was a long story. You had so much time with it that you developed. You really thought these two guys were,
you saw him come out to the ring with him. He mentored him, and then you could see the frustration building in weeks. You saw Zybisko just getting very short with Bruno in interview. He was just getting frustrated that, here's this guy that I'm just as good, it's not better than him at this point. And the first, and then again, like I said, that he wanted to do an exhibition match with him, and there was a TV taping in Allentown, and he, started off the match, and Bruno, being the better wrestler, just, Zybisko went in, Sammartino was schooling him, not mockingly or not in a bad way, just wrestling. And that's when Zybisko had enough, and it culminated into the big, Shea Stadium cage match, which again, Bruno won, but it was something that back then for that to happen, that was a big turn.
Schulzie, what do you think of?
Oh my gosh.
The heel turns?
Yeah, that's the topic.
Back when I was younger, I think just, the one that comes to mind, and, we talk about it like every single, I feel like we talk about it every schmaz, like the Marty Jannetty getting thrown through a barbershop window by his tag team partner of the Rockers, Shawn Michaels. I mean, when you have a tag team where your name is the Somethings and you dress the same, you gotta be good buddies. I mean, can you imagine Luke turning on Butch? You can't. Can you imagine Blake turning on Bo? You can't. Can you imagine Shawn Michaels turning on Marty? What?
Yeah.
It's crazy. It can't happen.
And what was good about that is Shawn Michaels actually changed his persona after the heel turn, which I think is a key of a good heel turn.
Yeah.
He went full heel. New outfit, new entrance music, new attitude. Yeah, so Hogan, his doesn't, to me, it's a heel turn, and it was very effective, but it's not a great example because it wasn't a tease to turn. It wasn't a story that built to something. It was all shock and awe. All of a sudden, Hogan's there, and, well, he's a heel.
Yeah. Where the Jannetty, like you said, you could see it building, the frustration. They were becoming you could just see that the charisma, they weren't gelling. There was making mistakes in the ring. There was just miscommunications, and you could tell by the attitude that Michaels had going into the barbershop. You could just see that he was the arrogant. He just had enough. And
exactly. That was the whole reason they were on the barbershop was to talk about their problems.
Yeah.
And try to get back together.
Yep, trying to mend the fences, and that wasn't happening. But I think that was probably one of in wrestling history, one of the most significant heel turns, because that just cemented his career. And he really, Michael's probably one of the greatest. He really took it and ran with it. And
And Marty did. Marty, he wrestled more.
Yeah.
Later. He's fine. So one of the heel turns I think of is it was the UWF, formerly Mid-South. It was the Angle of the Year, 1987. Oh. Terry Taylor turned on his tag partner, gentleman Chris Adams.
What?
And it was
not this way.
Yeah, it was great because they teased it over time. They were the tag champs, and they had a match where Taylor was late arriving. And Adams went on, and he was going to wrestle the two guys himself. And it was Sting, who was a heel, and
the Blade Runners,
King Parsons, managed
Iceman
by Eddie Gilbert, who was the top heel in UWF.
Hot Stuff International.
So Adams is just getting his ass kicked. And here comes Terry Taylor in full suit with his suitcase, running to the ring, and he's clearing house. And Jim Ross on commentary is going nuts. Oh, he's using his Halliburton suitcase. And it was just great. And you thought, oh, man, Taylor really helped him out. But they would eventually lose the tag titles to Sting and Rick Steiner.
Whoa.
Managed by Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert. And then that led to a singles match where everything was nice and dandy. And then they did a rematch. And in the rematch, there was a ref bump. Chris Adams to the outside of the ring. Terry Taylor goes out. Looks like he's going to help him up and get him back in the ring. Kicks him in the stomach, pile driver on the concrete.
Oh my gosh.
Count out. Magnum TA and Jim Ross on commentary are besides themselves. And then they're interviewing Taylor after the match and like, we thought we were all friends. What are you doing? It was great. Awesome angle.
It really was. And I don't know about you, but I feel like the heel turns back then were so much more thought out. They were so much more effective than the heel turns of today. And I say that for a few reasons. Number one, there's no dirt sheets, there's no internet, so kayfabe was still kayfabe back then. So that's number one. But I just think they took their time and they just really knew how to stretch it out. Where today, I think it's rushed and it's awkward, and you don't see that old, like you said, Joe, that Terry Taylor, Chris Adams, it was a fantastic heel turn, and they took their time and they had patience, and I don't see that as much in today's wrestling. So, and like you said, the announcers, the fans were going nuts. Everyone's like, "What the hell's going on here?" Like they believed, like, "Holy crap, this guy's turned bad."
Yeah,
like the Zybisko thing. It was like shocking.
And modern wrestling guys turn all the time, usually with no storyline. I mean,
right.
Every time the Big Show shows up, he could be a heel or a face, and he could turn in that match. It just doesn't matter. I think the only recent heel turn, NXT did a real good job with Gargano and Ciampa.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. That reminded me of an old school. These guys did a great job in selling the heel turn, and that's, again, you got to sell the heel turn, and you got to, again, it's all about getting emotionally vested. When you're watching those two, you get vested in them, and like, oh my God, they're good buddies, and the DIY, and then that happens. You're like, holy crap! You suspend reality for a minute, and you're like, that's a heel turn.
And again, you have to commit to the heel. The heel has to change and evolve from it. Schultz, during our pre-production meeting, you mentioned the Sting heel turn in WCW.
Yes.
Which lasted, I think, 3 weeks.
3?
Because he did the initial heel turn, and it went so badly, the next week they did this long video trying to prove to everyone that he was a heel much longer than everyone thought.
Yes.
And I remember I had a voiceover like, can we really trust Sting? And then
he's got 40 years of quality, friendly wrestling. I mean, why can we trust this guy?
Right. But Joe, you're making a good point. The heel turn, that's why you have to marinate it, you have to massage it, and you have to strike right when it's right. And if you don't, it'll ruin, like you just said, it ruins the heel turn, and it becomes not believable, and it just turns into a mess, and you're trying to clean up the mess after. That's why, we talked that Terry Taylor, angle. It just, they railed it up, and boom, the right time, and it was ready to unleash it, and they did, and that's why it worked so well. So,
and Taylor, when he turned heel, he sold it because he wore sunglasses all the time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's a
little minor tweak, but a tweak.
Yeah. You don't wear sunglasses in Mid-South. I mean, come on. That's hot stuff Eddie Gilbert territory right there.
But the turns back then were just so much more just believable, But it's the moment that you're right. It's leading up to that point, and once you let it go, it's no coming back.
I don't know if you plan on talking about it, but my when the network came along, I was going to watch some old stuff in order. And it was the first time I had been exposed to Andre the Giant ripping off Hulkster's crucifix. When you got religion involved, that's a big deal.
And that was a really good heel turn as well.
That was actually one of the better ones.
Look at me when I'm talking to you.
Yeah. Andre had legit motivation. Never had a title shot.
Yeah.
Undefeated for 20 years.
But you think about it, you're right though. Him and Hogan had a history. They had feuds they've had history with each other, when Hogan and Andre, always that big lovable giant. People loved Andre wherever he went. And for him to, turn on one of the biggest, stars at that time, Hogan, that was something significant.
And Hogan was part of the other heel turn I was going to mention with Macho Man and Elizabeth in the mix. That was good stuff.
And who can forget when Cameron turned on Naomi?
Yes.
What? No. What?
Oh.
So, Schultz, you're a wrestler.
Kinda.
Eh.
Yeah, go ahead. Yes.
So we're gonna look at your heel turn coming up. Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
Luckily we're separated.
How about that?
Yeah. It's been a while.
Fans, we are back here on the Big Schmoz. Scotty Bender, Superstar Rob Schulz,
Yes.
the big guy.
Oh,
And this
my
week
gosh.
We are discussing heel turns, and we went through earlier on some of the bigger heel turns in wrestling. And now we are going to actually take a look at a heel turn that struck very close to home here.
Like your chin?
Mm-hmm.
What?
Now I am the
So what we're looking at here is the setup for the match.
Where the heck did you get that?
This is old school stuff right here.
I enjoyed this because what I liked about the Wrestlevision Championship thing because it added a storyline that we could carry out and bring back at different times. It was always something that if we needed to do something for Wrestlevision, we could always go back, and bring the Wrestlevision title back. And we got a lot of mileage out of this. I mean, we did a lot of episodes wrapped around this, with Ivan the Jobber, down at the beach. But I liked the whole idea of the Wrestlevision title. It was a mockery. It was a joke, but you took it serious, and I had to act like it was serious. But we got a lot of mileage out of this.
I think Joe's getting this match here for us to watch. I really like the match. It's one of my favorite wrestling matches I ever had, actually, as silly and short as it is. But I mean, this stuff even predates the whole thing at Quiznos, which is probably one of the favorite things I've ever been involved in my life. Like, it was so fun.
Yeah,
the heels.
I was saying one of my favorite.
I know this is all you're doing. And I'm getting pretty fed up with it.
And Eric,
yeah.
as difficult as he was to work with,
because
he just didn't he always wanted to interject his own. He always wanted to interject his own production or his own what's what I'm looking for, his own input, and we always had to reel him back because he's always way ahead. Like, hey, let's do this or do that. I loved working with Eric Everlast, but it was always a little angst going into it because I knew, okay, Joe's gonna know what we're gonna do. We're gonna have it down, and then Gary's gonna come back and try to tweak it and do it, And I didn't agree with a lot of his ideas, so we always had to reel him back. But I thought you guys had good chemistry. I thought he did play, the part well, and we had good chemistry with what we were doing. That's how I felt about it.
Yeah, and I appreciated, Eric being like that. I mean, the first local wrestling show I went to was NMW, and its first show in 2000, which was an hour after I got in a car accident in my first car. And I remember Eric and Jason Atlas, I think, were in the main event for the title after a tournament. So he was always a guy I looked up to, as a local wrestler. And to finally get a chance to again, as silly as a lot of people might look at this match, it was the first time I really got to have a match with somebody who I really looked at as a wrestler instead of somebody who was just my friends, because I wrestled a lot of my friends for years.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was in there in a rumble with Buff Bagwell one time, which was hilarious.
But it was kind of a crossover because it really was. It was kind of a crossover of two worlds kind of coming together because, Eric Everlast was working for Upstate and he was part of that crew. You were part of the Rock City crew, but we kind of brought it together because Wrestlevision was that safe ground that really was kind of hey, you know what? We're friends with these guys and we're friends with these guys, and we brought this together, where this would have never happened if it wasn't for a Wrestlevision episode, quite honestly, in my opinion.
When Colin got the nod to go to ECW, I was trying to think who would be a better fit for that position. I really couldn't think of somebody else. Just like with this, I don't know who else could have filled the role of Eric Everlast doing this thing right here better than he did. I can't see,
he played a good bully. He was big. He was a big guy. He was a bully. He did, he was a heel, in his matches. So we had footage of that gruesome attack on JP Black. Really, I mean, that was pretty brutal. I mean, you don't see chair shots like that anymore. But he was imposing. I remember doing, when we did the match, I was a little afraid because I'm not a wrestler, and I was petrified of bumping. I was heavier back then. I was out of shape. Not that I'm in the best shape now, but I was in better shape now than I was back then. And I'll be very transparent. I was nervous because I never refereed, and I'm more of a perfectionist. I want to make sure when I was doing these shows, I did it things the right way. So I kind of felt like a fish out of water a little bit because I never, even though we were acting, I never ref before, so I was a little nervous, and then I knew I had to eventually take a bump or do some kind of, do something, and that always made me nervous. I'm like, I'm going to hurt myself. That's all I need, and so I had some angst going into this. As much fun as we had with it, I still was nervous, doing this.
Here we go.
Even though it was a small little spot.
Learning to fall right it takes a while to really get the knack, and it's something I never mastered, honestly. I mean, I got ribbed about my bumps for years and years, until some of these guys came over and bumped in the ring that I've been bumping in. They're like, wow, your ring is really hard. I'm like, yeah, I know. Like, this ring right here was one of the softest rings I've ever been in. Like, I probably could have, got it done right for a long time. I mean, mine was basically, a bunch of 2x4s under carpet that I was in for 3 years, and that, knocks the wind out of you when you fall down.
I never even, if, talking back about years from now, if we did this, I never liked when we did things and like wrestlers grab me, certain ones.
Yeah.
Eric Everlast, I know he's safe, but I think sometimes their emotions get the best of them, and they don't realize I'm not a wrestler and I don't know how to react right away. So I always used to think of it like when Eric Everlast or Rick Matrix, like down, I was nervous. I'm like, this guy's gonna throw me or do something. I don't want to be, Matrix driver. You know what I mean? I don't know how to fall right.
Yeah.
So Eric Everlast, as much as I love the guy, he made me nervous at times because I was, when we were doing this angle, because there's times he would grab me and I was just like, he's going to throw me down or do something, because he's going to forget that we're acting or this is like, this is a show. And so that kind of stuff used to go through my head. I never vocalized it because I was, trying to be the professional, that I was, but it was a little nervous. But I, of course, wanted this to go off right, I didn't know how you guys were going to do in the ring. I thought it came off really well. Not that I didn't have confidence in you guys or you, but I just didn't know how this was going to work because we were trying to do a match, but kind of a fake match,
I don't even...
We were doing this at the Kayfabe Dojo where they were having training. We saw earlier in the background, Brody Lee, Colin Delaney, Jimmy Olsen, Frank the Tank were all in the ring. And right now, a lot of guys are outside the ring watching this match.
And we don't. Oh, right there. Look at the power of Eric Everlast. But we didn't know what, because like you said, Schultz, you knew all those guys, but you weren't part of this group, really, So we kind of went as outsiders in there asking their permission to use their ring. And we didn't want to make a mockery out of wrestling either.
I was on pretty good terms with those guys. Like, even though our organizations didn't see eye to eye, like, I was on there. Those guys were like all my friends. And, I was buds with Hellcat for a long, not buds.
Green Bud?
No, he was at the first show, I was at with the, so, those guys were always friendly with me.
I know, but we were kind of doing a match that was kind of a joke, and I didn't want to come off as like these guys are taking their craft serious and where they're like fucking off. You know what I mean?
I just I wanted to say something a second ago when Everlast dropped me on like the backbreaker, and then he like slapped my side. It made such a loud noise, and like, I don't remember it hurting at all, but I had this huge red handprint. And I was like, when did that happen? It was like his entire hand. Like his whole freaking meat paw.
Yeah. I thought the match actually went well.
You talk about you being afraid. My guy's going to rip me in half with his kick.
I know, right.
It's like, oh, lordy.
To hit me or punch me. I was afraid he's going to potato me or something, or he's going to go off script.
The big moment.
What can I do, Scotty?
Do something.
You do something.
There he goes. And again, I got nervous. I was like, the whole time I'm thinking, okay, he's going to kick. I know what you were going to do. And I was like, nervous. I got to make sure I can sell this, but I don't want to get kicked in the face. My face is all I got,
Nobody beats me.
Nobody beats me.
Nobody beats me.
The Wiz. Yes.
I had to sell it,
And Everlast was really slapping you there too. I remember
He
that.
was. He doesn't.
You actually weren't too happy about the slaps, I remember.
No, I wasn't, because I told you, that's what I meant. He's not gentle. I'm not a worker. He was just like slapping me. That's awesome. Actually.
We showed it a few times.
Yeah, I love how he shows you can see you blatantly just kicking your leg. Slap, knee slap.
What? What are you talking about? No. I don't want to watch. Yeah, that was my last in-ring action. I mean, I did a little ref or managerial duties, but I had hip surgery like the next January. Can you believe that? That was my last in-ring match. That's crazy.
I mean, looking back, though, everything went well with that. I thought it was, it was good. It was again. I was nervous going into it because again, bumping and taking,
so fun.
It was a lot of fun. And we get the angle. Yeah, it was a heel turn.
Yeah,
and then
we should probably mention that.
Path. Yeah, that was a heel turn.
Yeah, don't mess with me.
And that set us off on, and then
And like any good heel turn, the heel afterwards was forever changed.
Mm-hmm.
He went from being Superstar Rob Schulz to the Superstar. He started wearing lots of scarves, and he had Panaccio.
Panaccio. Do you have any Panaccio clips?
No.
Shoot. More Panaccio. More. It's good stuff.
Yeah. And then that just, you and I had, heat after that, Yeah. You and I weren't the same after.
And that was quite a roller coaster, that whole thing. We had the Heels episode of Quiznos. We had the board game challenge.
Yep.
We had Freddie Midnight and I were pranking Eric Everlast's phone that night.
Yes. Well, we did get a lot of mileage out of the Wrestlevision title, and
Yeah.
And big guys' creativity, played very well into that. So we did. We produced some good stuff.
That was fun for me, and I honestly thoroughly appreciate that stuff.
Yeah. No, it was really good. I enjoyed it. Just not Eric Everlast slaps after.
When we come back, we'll do a little hot button.
Yeah.
Well, Schulzie Explains It. And then
we'll wrap it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fans. Welcome back to the Big Schmaz. Scotty Bender, Superstar Rob Schulz, and the big guy. And we're going to wrap things up here on our heel episode of the Big Schmaz. And Joe, I think the honors were going to go to Schulz here next, right?
Whoa.
Oh.
If we start to wrap things up.
You mean Schulzie Explains It?
Yes.
How exciting.
Yeah.
I'm going to try.
Oh, you're going to try?
This time.
Schulz, speaking of heel turns, there's also a thing called face turns. So tell us about the time Lex Luger and Yokozuna.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
So Bobby Heenan or somebody had brought in the narcissist Lex Luger. He was like gushing over Luger's body. He's like, look at the triceps, look at the biceps. And Luger just completely freaking ripped and complete super bad guy. Had the plate in his forearm from the motorcycle accident. So, delivering boom, bionic forearm to people. It's like, come on, that's not fair. He's got a weapon in his arm. So we get to the point, they're going to do some sort of challenge. I believe it was 4th of July on the USS Intrepid. And if you could slam Yokozuna like you like won the belt or a title shot or something like that. So people from like all walks were coming out. Like, I don't know if Ken Patera was there, but like real like muscle men guys like that were there. I know there were football players that showed up from the NFL trying to pick up Yokozuna, who's freaking gigantic. He was probably, I think he was 5 bills at that point, but not his peak weight, if you can imagine that. But there were other wrestlers like Hacksaw Jim Duggan. My God, he's got the power of the United States of America behind him with the American flag. He's got his 2x4. He's got the American flag, and he's saying ho. He should be able to body slam. He can't do it. Can't body slam Yokozuna. What's this? Helicopter lands. And Lex Luger, who's now wearing a Stars and Stripes shirt, I think it's a buttoned-up shirt, shows up, takes it off, gets in the ring. The crowd's going crazy. It's like, what's Lex Luger doing here? He's a naughty bad guy. He's not going to do this. Hits Yokozuna with the forearm. Yokozuna, bounces off the turnbuckles. Luger gets the pick up and slam. The crowd erupts because, they've seen people fail for probably 17 straight hours that day in the blistering sun. And Luger's beside himself, can't believe it, jumps up on the ropes to the crowd. Amazing. And then all of a sudden you don't remember him flexing in front of mirrors and being a jerk to everybody. You remember how he body slammed Yokozuna and all was good with the world. For your health.
Wow. That was something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he nailed it.
That was okay. Yeah. Hot button with Bender.
Yeah. I just want to make one comment. We were talking about earlier on about the heel turns. I know this wasn't a heel turn, but one of the biggest face turns, because Rob was just talking about a face turn, but I'll make it very quick. One of the biggest face turns that I always remember that I still think about is during Charge Championship Wrestling when Gordon Soley was the head announcer, and then when Piper was doing announcing, he was kind of the heel announcer, and when Morocco knocked into Gordon Soley and knocked Gordon Soley down in a scuffle, and then Roddy Piper came to Gordon Soley's aid to save Gordon Soley and eventually had a feud with Morocco. I just had to make that comment because that was kind of a crazy time.
That's good.
Yeah. If you ever get a chance, watch it. All right. So my hot button today is kind of a part 2 hot button from last week regarding Major League Baseball, because everything I fucking said last week is now happening this week. The COVID is spreading. We've got teams. Look at the Marlins. I think we're up to 20 positive cases right now. They're not even playing games. You just had the Cardinals. Some of their players are being quarantined. Cancel the season. I don't know how many times I got to say this. This is a shit show, and it's going to get worse. You're going to have more cases. You're going to have players injured. I don't know if I think Verlander might be out for the year. He's hurt with a strain. You're going to have more players hurt because they didn't have a proper spring training. I don't know what Manfred has to do to understand that this needs to be shut down, save face, okay? Because it's going to become embarrassing. It's going to become the butt of a bad joke this season. And you got games now. They're talking about double headers, 7 innings. This season's going to not only have 1, but 2, but 3 asterisks next to it, because whoever ends up winning this, if they go through with this garbage, is going to be looked upon like, who gives a shit? I don't care. I always toot my horn. I'm a huge baseball fan. I have not watched any baseball this season because it's just a joke and people's lives are in danger. People are getting sick. And I don't know why they keep trying to take this square peg and put it in a round hole. The NBA, it's too late to bubble. They can't do it. The logistics of it would be a nightmare. It's just, you'd have the season running into 2022 at this point, or you'd have like 30-game season. Basketball took the right approach. They bubbled. Hopefully we'll see what happens there. But baseball, just shut it down. Just take your pride and swallow it and just be done. I can't believe these players are going out there and wholeheartedly putting their hearts into this. Because you have no fans, okay? It's a 60-game season, and you're going into the games now, and you got people, you're flying all over the place in the hot zones, and you got teams now that are having COVID, and you're like, oh, we just played them yesterday. So, yeah, now, I wonder if I'm going to have COVID. It's just a joke, and I'm sorry, but I'm just very disappointed in Major League Baseball, and if I could do a heel turn, I would. If I could turn on them, which I think I am. Doesn't mean I don't like baseball. Just shut it down. Vaccination will hopefully come out soon. Get back to a full season next year. But you're going to look back on this year, and it's just going to be a laughing stock. And you're going to put people's lives in danger. And you need, again, just shut it down and do the right thing. Again, putting a round peg in a square hole doesn't work. just swallow your pride. I got to believe there's a lot of players out there that don't want to play. And again, when you're going out there and you can't go out and give your all, and you're half of your mind's thinking, oh my God, am I going to get sick after this series? There's no way you can be playing at 100%. There's no way you can. You can. You got to be, and that's how things get hurt when it's awful. I'm just not. It's just got to get canceled.
You'd mentioned the bubble with basketball, and you think that was an effective way. Like hockey's supposed to start. Hockey is supposed to start in a couple days, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we don't know what's gonna happen with hockey, and then the NFL. Are they gonna learn anything from any of this?
I don't know. All I know is I cannot watch football in an empty stadium. I don't. Football to me is one of the bigger sports that is fan involved, and I don't know how. It's you go to a Bills home game and not the Bills Mafia and the noise and it's just I don't know how you do it. I don't know.
Well, now you know what it's like to be a Browns fan. Empty stadium.
One thing I've learned is the fans. Let me tell you something real quick. Fans mean everything because wrestling has suffered greatly because of no fans.
Yes.
I don't care what anybody says. The angles, turns. A heel turn doesn't mean anything now when you have no fans because it's the reaction of the fans that drives the creativity and drives. And that's I firmly believe that. So fans, like you said, about fans.
Yes.
So,
All right. See you next week.
See you next week.